Thank you again. I'm Daniel McCorm. We are in Harlem, USA. We're still with John Burnett and another friend, Tony Evans, congressional candidate for the United States Congress, has stopped in to visit us. Welcome, sir.
Welcome to Harlem.
Thank you. And you're currently running for office.
I am. I'm currently running to take the seat being vacated by Charlie Rangel, who's retiring after a lifetime in the Congress.
And what exact district is that?
Well, this is the 13th district in New York. We start at 96th Street in the East River and run really across 98th Street and all the way up in through Harlem, Inwood Heights, Marble Hill, across Spuyten Duyvil and into the South Bronx just a little bit.
That's quite a bit of Harlem. We're about 2 blocks from the Apollo Theater, ladies and gentlemen. We're right on Malcolm X Boulevard at the Corner Social. It's a magnificent establishment. This is real Harlem right here in the heart of the matter. 125th and Malcolm X. You can't get any deeper. I mean, this is it. The Apollo, it's the cultural icon of the world. Everyone knows it, and everyone knows the history behind it and what it represents. John, you invited this young man down here. Why is that?
Well, there's not too many black Republicans in Harlem, and I think Tony's run for Congress means a lot. And I'd like to ask Tony, what do Republicans have for the urban community, and what can they offer?
Well, I think you're standing in an example of what Republicans offer. I mean, Republicans believe in a smaller government, making real hard choices about how we spend our money, and supporting business. And we're standing here in one of the new businesses in the resurgent Harlem. I mean, Harlem has seen the swings and arrows of outrageous fortune. We've seen the crack epidemic in the 70s. We've seen the resurgence in the 80s and 90s. And now it's one of the hippest, hottest neighborhoods again. And partially because we've got businesses like this one here, Harlem Social on Lenox and 127th Street. We've got new restaurants. We've got people making investments in the district. But we still have some things that we need to get done. And I think those things can best be done with a Republican congressman who knows how to do business and get some deals done.
So you're saying that Republican values could actually put more money in a person's pocketbook or wallet?
Absolutely. I mean, Republican values are family values. I've been a Republican since I first registered to vote in 1970 or something. So I didn't just become a Republican. Those are the values we learned at home. You value family first, you value your community, you value your neighbors. Those are Republican values. It's too easy to talk about sort of the big ticket, top of the line things and all of the things that Republicans aren't. But we are a party of family values. I dislike using the metaphor of the big tent, but there's a broad spectrum of beliefs in the party. But they're all really driven around a small federal government. I happen to think that our government right now is too big. It's certainly bigger than we can afford. And when our government's bigger than we can afford, that means there's less money we can spend on education, there's less money we can spend on infrastructure, there's less money we can spend on our elderly.
Let me stop you right there. So, New York City spends about $30 billion on an annual basis on education.
Right.
So tell if you were...
Excuse me, I got to interrupt. Did you say 30 billion with a B?
$30 billion.
Right.
On what?
On education on an annual basis. We're the
New York City.
Right. New York City, the #1 spending municipality in America.
That's right.
$30 billion.
That's a big check, Joe.
If you look
every 365 days. So with that said, right, some people are extremely against school choice, but school choice takes the power away from bureaucrats and put it in the hands of teachers in the classroom, but more importantly, the parents.
That's right.
So how can we get that message to the urban community?
Well, I think part of the way the urban community is getting that message is in watching the growth of charter schools. I mean, what the charter schools have done in Harlem, what Jeffrey Canada started with the Harlem Children's Zone, what we see now with the Success Academy. I'll tell you a story about charter schools. I've got a neighbor who's got 4 kids, and Wayne and his wife, Tanya, every morning getting the 4 kids out to school. His oldest daughter just graduated high school, and she's about to start college, and she said to me that she loved her school, and that for a long time she didn't love school because she was tall, she was smart, her mother and father at home working her on her drills, but if you've done your homework, the teacher can't spend any time with you because of the size of the classroom. When she got moved to a charter school for high school, it reignited her love for learning and reading and math, and she's very good at math. She wants to be an engineer, I think. So when I look at how parent choice and control of that budget are important, it's really key. I mean, this is a key thing, because if you want to beat poverty, you've got to educate people. I mean, we've known that since Booker T. Washington built Tuskegee, right? You can't have a war on poverty. You've got to educate people out of poverty. And you're right. The New York City Department of Education budget is $28.9 billion. It looks at over 1 million kids a year show up for the first day of school. And when they do, they're speaking over 26 dialects or languages first day of school. But we're still trying to educate them like they did when I started school in 1968, right? You can't do that. You've got to apply best methods, and the best way to get new methods is to get government out of the way. Government didn't invent Google. Government didn't invent Apple. Government didn't invent the internet. Sorry, Al Gore. We've been doing...
Al Gore invented the internet.
That's right. Entrepreneurs and people with good ideas drive change.
Absolutely.
And people in their communities know what change they need. They don't need somebody in Washington or in Albany to tell them what they should be doing to educate their children. So school choice is really important because it reinvigorates the parent-school relationship.
Educational options and also financial literacy is what I'm hearing.
You're absolutely right. People have to be financially literate. When you hear people talk about government programs, you always got to remember what I tell my kids, which is that the pocket has a bottom. Right? There's only one place the government gets money. It's from you and I. It's in the grabbing of revenue. And from the time that Alexander Hamilton and Thomas Jefferson were fighting about whether or not to have a central bank, we've worried about giving the federal government too much authority over our money. For there to be a government program, money's got to come out of your pocket, John, because your pockets are deeper than mine. Right. And it's got to be redistributed through a bureaucracy that's got to be built. Can you name one government bureaucracy that's ever gone out of business?
That's true.
Right? They build a business, they keep themselves at work.
So what I'm hearing is very important to have competition in the education system, right?
In everything.
To have competition in our financial system, because the end user, which are the consumers, benefit.
That's right.
So if I was to take that trend and bring it into politics, are you saying that political competition, for an example, Republicans and Democrats competing in the same areas diligently and vigorously, the people will benefit? Is that what I'm hearing?
If you don't compete in the political arena, you get a one-party system.
Right.
And we absolutely don't want a one-party system. We don't want Stalin telling us that we're going to send our kids off to do this. We don't want a party member telling us what our kids have to study.
But Tony, it's going to be a tremendous challenge to get the urban community to register Republicans. So do you think it's a good idea as a first step, right? Not try to switch people based upon a piece of paper in terms of how they're registered, but get them educated on the school choices financially and how the political system works, and then use that political system in terms of the power of their vote to vote differently.
You ought to be running the party. You see, I have spent the last year talking to people about their issues. And when I talk to people about their issues, they don't ask me what my party affiliation is.
Right.
When I talk to people about their children, they don't ask me what my party affiliation is. When someone in my church needs help, they don't ask me what my party affiliation is, right? So I think the most important thing is to talk about people's individual issues and give them better ideas. Competition of ideas means that the best ought to rise to the top.
Absolutely.
And the only way to fight corruption is to have a real competition for those votes and not take those votes for granted. And there's some things we could do in New York, specifically like getting rid of the closed primary system, which would force possibly some better candidates into the flow. And it's a very difficult thing, deciding
Well, some might say that could be used at the national level too.
Well, all politics is local. And when I ask my neighbors, would you vote for a Republican? They go, I'm not sure I'd vote for a Republican. I ask them, would you vote for your neighbor? They go, well, it depends on who it is. I said, would you vote for me? They go, absolutely. When I talk to my neighbors about why I'm running, and when I talk about creating better jobs and getting better schooling, because, people want better jobs.
Absolutely.
I've never met anybody who said, yeah, you know what, I'd like to get up today and go spend 8 or 10 hours doing something I hate. I'd like to not be able to pay for my kids to go see a movie. I'd like to be able to take my kids to the Science Center on the weekend, but it costs $22 to get into the Expo Science Center. If you don't make the right amount of money, how are you going to do that? But you can't do that by having a government bureaucrat tell a business owner how much to pay me. Let me compete with you to see which one of us works better.
Right.
Are you talking about minimum wage mandates?
I am. What John didn't say is I spent 18 years on Wall Street, and I'll tell you, we spent all of our time going around the world spreading the idea of capitalism. This is a country that believes in competition. We believe in the best and the brightest. We've always done that, right? We don't believe in landed bureaucracies or nobility or titles. We believe that you can go to work and compete, and if you're the best worker, you get the best pay. We took that message around the world when I was at Citigroup, or what was then Citibank and became Citigroup, helping write regulations in China, in Peru, in Ecuador, in India, in Russia. They all wanted the American capitalist system. And that's competition driven. You got to have rules that treat everybody fairly, and then once the rules are clear, then you open the gates and compete.
You also have to have money in the game. And with that said, I think that the opportunity for the Republican Party is to bring capitalism to the urban community.
Well, I think,
and so that way they can start owning the businesses, owning the property, and controlling the economic dollars in their community.
Well,
and if they do that, then they can control the politics as well.
Right, because you know what? Money controls.
Absolutely.
Money controls the message. Money is where that power is. We've known that since Madam C.J. Walker became the first millionaire in America, right? There's the first black millionaire in America. It wasn't Oprah, it was Madam C.J. Walker, who was destitute and illiterate until she was 14 years old, right? I mean, you talk about entrepreneurship. 74% of the businesses in this country are small businesses. Right. They're mom and pop businesses, they're flower stores, they're hair shops, they're barber shops. If government makes it impossible for those people, then we've shut down the opportunity stream. So, and one of the ways that the Republican Party really supports that idea is reducing the size of the government regulation and getting out of the way so people can do business.
I'm really glad to hear you say that. It sounds like both you guys are a couple of capitalists. It used to be a dirty word. I don't know if it still is, but I'm going to tell you the truth. I am a capitalist.
Well,
I'm an American, sir.
Well, I think you're going to find that the people in Harlem, the people in Washington Heights, the people in Inwoods, capitalists. We believe in this community in new ideas. I mean, Harlem gave America jazz. When Cab Calloway and Duke Ellington broke out of the Artie Shaw bands to start doing their own stuff, they said, let me go do my own thing. We gave America hip-hop. It's not pop music, nobody will get it. Get out of the way and let it work itself out. Right? Government doesn't need to run business. It needs to regulate, create the four corners, and let's have fair, equal competition.
That's a beautiful thing. What would you like to leave us with one last word, sir?
Did I say votetonyevans.com yet?
Vote who, sir?
Vote Tony Evans, TonyEvans.com. Have a look at our website, see the kind of issues that we're supporting, and we're building. I think we're going to make change, and we're going to make history here.
Ladies and gentlemen, you heard that from a black man in Harlem. We're not out in Wisconsin. We're not in Wilmington, Delaware. We are in Harlem, USA. I'm standing here with Tony Evans, congressional candidate, John Burnett, longtime friend. He and I refer to ourselves as a brother from another mother because, frankly, we are at this point.
You got cheated on the height thing.
I did. I'll tell you, after we go off, I'll tell you a joke about height. something
no
I said
jokes.
to John. That's okay, Jessica. Leave that in. This is cable. Thank you, John Burnett and Tony Evans. Thanks for coming down, sir. We are in Harlem, USA. We're at the corner of 125th and Malcolm X Boulevard, a.k.a. Lenox. We're 2 blocks from the Apollo Theater, and I'm Daniel McCaughan. This is Fox News Radio, 1180 WFYL, your greater Philadelphia Valley Forge, 250-mile radius covering the tri-state area, and national when they pick us up. Thanks, guys. Stay tuned.